Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Policy and Governance Committee of the Albany Public Library Board of Trustees to order.
We have for public comment, we have not received any public comment. If anybody wishes to make a public comment, they're asked to send an email to publiccomment@albanypubliclibrary.org. That's all one word. Also, you can leave a voicemail at 518-290-6905. Any public comments we'll receive are, we do ask that the person leaving the message, please leave your name and your address, so we know if you're City of Albany resident or not. And we have not received anything so far.
Okay. So to begin with, we're going to be dealing with old business, which is our policy regarding hate speech. Our attorney has some comments on that policy.
Yeah, I mean, essentially the comment is that I think this is probably not something that you want to do, even though we can all agree on the premise behind it. You're a governmental actor, and any policy that's directed towards speech is going to be suspect, even one that's directed towards something as awful as hate speech. What I would suggest that you do in lieu of passing this policy is making some changes to the behavior policy that I can go over with you in a second. But in the event that people don't feel that way and they want to try to pass something that would, pass muster, then we've got to start looking at some changes like the ones here, because essentially what you can prohibit is violations of the law and threats of violence and violence. You can't prohibit people speaking hateful words or words that you find offensive, even if they happen to be offensive in connection to protected classes. So if we were gonna move forward with a hate speech policy, then we'd have to start looking at some edits like this. What I would suggest instead is I'm going to stop sharing this one and I'll share some changes to the behavior policy. Let's see here. Screen share. Now you should have the behavior policy up. And there are a couple changes that I've made to this policy to help highlight similar topics, but it's not exactly what you wanted to highlight with the hate speech. So I would make this change in the purpose, so that we include this concept of you're affecting the rights of others in the library as well. It's implicit there already, but I think we could state it clearly. And then down in bullet number 1, which is the bullet that you had previously highlighted in the hate speech policy and called out, we would add this wording: using any language or speech that, sorry, I don't know what happened. Let me restart that. I don't know why it paused.
It's still moving for us.
You're still seeing it?
Yeah.
Screen sharing is paused. I don't know what happened there. Okay, well, anyway, using any language or speech that encourages an unlawful act or encourages violence against a person or group of people. And that would be language, that's speech that is protectable. And then I don't think there's any other changes to this necessary. I did a quick read through. I put some administrative changes here. The other virtue here is that you already have this tying to what happens if you violate the policy, so you wouldn't have to have duplicative language there already. Doing it the other way, I think, calls attention to the library from groups that may be concerned about limitations on speech. And frankly, it also may call attention to the library from groups who want to test a policy like that. So this would be my advice if you're interested in trying to do something to make it more clear that this conduct is limited.
I agree. Just from what Bob just indicated or reiterate, just trying to strong up or tighten up the behavior policy and to include all the changes. I read some, read over them, haven't printed it out. So I agree that's not what we definitely don't want to cause attention to ourselves. But again, to reiterate our stance on hate speech, and it does follow, into the behavior policy because it's all in your behavior and how you're conducting yourself in the library.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree as well. I was feeling wary about the hate speech policy to begin with. I like the first bullet too. I like the changes to it.
Sorry, I lost it here. Let me go back and share again.
I think it says it, in the nutshell where you say using any language or speech that encourages any unlawful behavior or encourages violence against a person or a group of people. I mean, that was the essence of the hate speech policy.
Bob, I have the question about, there are other libraries out there that do have a hate speech policy. Do we have any indication on how they were able to kind of skirt the issues that you're bringing up? Or
I don't think they're skirting them at all, Melanie. I think they're holding themselves out there to, potential challenge. And I know that you borrowed this from Cambridge, which is indeed a public library. So, I don't know what their counsel's advice to them was, but I think their policy is unconstitutional.
just so I did reach out to the director today. Depending on how you look at it, fortunately or unfortunately, they are opening their libraries today. So she was unable to take the time to comment, but I was told she would be getting back to me at some point. So I will relay that information once I hear from.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to talk with their counsel and see if they've, come to some loophole that they think that they can do. If you were an association library, we wouldn't have this conversation. You could do whatever you want. You'd be a private entity regulating private conduct, right? It's the fact that you're a governmental entity, and unfortunately, I just don't want you to. I don't want to expose you. I don't know what is going wrong with my computer today, but it is hinky. I don't want to expose you to that kind of lawsuit. And ironically, unless you've had some specific issue that we're trying to address, the type of challenge we're talking about here is going to be from a group that you would ordinarily feel that you were aligned with, some free speech organization. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this one. I'm going to go back to the hate speech policy just so that we can look at it one more time and make sure that there's nothing that we're missing about this. Again, if we were really gung-ho on this one, I think we'd have to start looking at some language changes like this. This isn't unrelated to the open forum, closed forum discussion that we've had before about meeting room uses, and the fact that eventually you're going to have someone who wants to come and use one of your meeting rooms that you don't love the ideology of, and so it comes down to the question of, do you want to be limiting everyone to avoid that circumstance, or do you want to hope that you just don't face that circumstance, or if you do, that you can just make sure the public understands that that is not your viewpoint, that's someone else's?
I would think the latter.
Traditionally, what we've done, Brigitte, is to allow an open forum so that,
Right. I said the latter, that, just like NPR does or anybody else who does, these are not the views of the organization, but they're giving everyone a free speech to view their point of view. Because if, like you said, if you put out the net to limit one group, to another group may also be put.
We lost you, Brigitte, at the end there for somehow.
So how do we want to proceed? Do we want to table the hate speech policy and make changes to the behavior policy at this juncture?
Yes, yes. I would say go
Right.
forward with behavior policy, table the hate speech until we find out more.
Yeah, and certainly we're not in, we've got a little bit of time between the next meeting. So Mel, if you get some contact with Cambridge, when you get to them, connect me with their lawyer and I'll do my best to connect with them and get their thoughts. We can perhaps meet one more time if they tell us something that we've missed.
So we don't have the behavior policy up for review in this meeting, but I like those changes that Bob is suggesting. Does it make sense to take those edits as is or put it in for official review in the next meeting?
I'm sorry.
It would be good to have Brenda look over stuff and have a
Yeah.
conversation with her, since she's the trustee who
Right.
brought them to the committee and brought them to the board. So I'd feel way
Yeah.
more comfortable if we got her opinion on things.
Right.
I don't know what to do about that though.
I think I sent them out to everybody today, so she'll have them. And
Yeah.
I guess we'll do some more research. Mel and I will keep following up. If we get anything more, we could hold another P&G between now and the July board meeting, or we could just hold it between now and the August board meeting.
And
Okay.
I will say that the behavior policy was up for review in April 2020, so it's not like we couldn't add it.
Yeah.
And they're minor changes because you've discovered the need to add them.
Mhm.
So, okay, yeah. Maybe Brenda will come too. I don't know, but okay. So next up is the privacy and confidentiality policy, which we have been kind of going back and forth about for a long time. Deciding whether or not to give access to outside organizations and the police to our external cameras.
So I'm trying to pull that one up. Hang on just for a second. So while I'm pulling it up, there is a relatively simple change that could be made to that policy to make this a non-issue. And the issue that this stems from is that, you know, the question is, are videos generally library records subject to protection under 4509? And the answer to that is, yeah, they definitely can be. The question becomes is if they are not library records because they don't have any confidential information in them. You know, so an external video wouldn't show the users of the library or the materials that they're accessing or you know, the programs that they're attending, things like that. Then the question is, are those videos really records under 4509? And I would argue that they're not. So we would simply make a change to the policy to state that videos from the library's security system that are external to the buildings are not treated as library records under this policy and are subject to FOIL. And then you'd simply need to ask the police officers to fill out a form when they came looking for them.
So Bob, my only concern with this is external cameras, which will show entrance and exit from the building.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean somebody's coming or going to the library as a user. You know, that's just who entered the building. So for example, that would show the police officer entering the building. Is he a library user?
He may be.
He might be,
Are
but
you
he's not,
assuming? Are
right?
you assuming police don't use the library?
No, I'm in this circumstance. I'm coming to the library to come and ask for the record from you. Am I a user of the library?
Yeah.
No, not at all. I'm coming to use to make a FOIL request, right?
You're gaining information from the library.
No, I don't. My point is simply that when this cop is coming to you to ask for this video, right? He's not coming to you to access the library's resources. He's coming to ask for a document that you're saying is not a library. You know, if I come in and use the bathroom, I'm not necessarily coming to the library as a user. I'm coming to use your library, your bathroom. So is that, quote unquote, the thing that we're trying to protect under 4509, which is use of a book, use of a program, you know, circulation records, things like that. You know, I don't know. Now you could also assume, say, I'm sorry, John, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, sorry. That was me telling, no, sorry.
Anyway.
Lion King issues.
Yes.
As I'm sitting here chatting, I'm having a hard time pulling this document up. So give me a hard time. Give me a minute, guys. I think I found it now. Nope, it's still not it.
And just so we're aware, I think there's two actual policies that this falls under. We have privacy and confidentiality of library records and the public access to library information and records. There's two policies that this would affect.
I don't know that you would. I'm not sure you'd put it in the FOIL policy.
Okay.
I mean, I guess maybe you could affirmatively state that this is subject to FOIL, but that's not how that policy is written.
Okay. I think that we might have had a mistake then, Rebecca.
It's definitely,
yeah,
it's definitely the privacy of records one for sure. Which, of course, for some reason, I'm having a hard time finding the email where you sent that to me.
You want me to? I can screen share if that would help. That
would help.
Yeah, I mean, Bob, I'm just echoing some of the concerns that I've heard from trustees.
Yeah, well, look, it's the decision is the board's to make. You can make the police go through the hoops of getting a subpoena to look at your external cameras too. I just don't think they're protected in this. But again, they're not protected in the same way, assuming you all believe that. You know, otherwise the default would be that you treat them as protected.
If we chose to treat them as protected, what effect could that have on the library's relationships in the community, the safety of our staff. Like, you guys see what I'm getting at? I want to think about that.
Does
So
it
Jenna,
set
you
us
can
up?
always, sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Does it set up? What you're asking is, does it set us up for an adversarial relationship with the police in terms of our partnership with law enforcement? I mean, I don't think they'll be happy about it. I mean, we already have to tell community members that, they've asked. We have community members who come and ask and say, hey, I need to see if my child was here. And they're very unhappy with the fact that we can't just hand them the video records. It would be a change of policy. It would be a change of procedure. And I can't theorize how that'll be interpreted. The responses recently have been somewhat positive, but have been polite.
And the police, you guys have had a policy in place of making them jump through the hoop for long enough that I think they understand that that's what they have to do if they really want them. I just think that they'd much rather not have to jump through the hoop if you could do it. Similarly, though, the flip side is you always have had the right to disclose one of those videos without a subpoena if it's for your own purpose.
Yeah.
So, for example, if there was some situation where there was a vandalism act at the library and you wanted to press charges, you could easily use that video to show that without getting a subpoena because it's for proper library purpose. That scenario that you just said, Scott, where a parent is looking for their child, they wanted interior records. That's still
No, they've asked for interior and external because they might be looking to see if their child was at the bus stop.
Right. But internal, we'd still protect because that is much more likely to show information about a use or an access or what were they doing in the library, and that would be, I'd encourage you not to make that easy.
No, not asking for that.
Yeah,
just
right.
Providing it as an example.
Yeah.
So given that it sounds to me like the temperature of the board is to require subpoena for this, though Bob says we don't have to consider it library records. It feels like the temperature is we would like to consider it library records and therefore make it harder to access.
Well, that's the default. You're already there. That's what you have. So the only thing I could suggest is I can take the privacy of confidential library records document, add the sentence that we're talking about, and you could send it to the board and without it being an action item, just simply talk about it at a meeting saying this is the change that could be made. What does everybody think? And if the board overwhelmingly says, no, we don't need to add that, then it's over with, right? And if they say, no, we're comfortable, then P&G could actually make that recommendation and you could vote on it.
Okay, I think that's the approach I'd like to take if Brigitte, if you're comfortable with that as well.
Yeah, what is the change or the added language?
It's going to be adding a sentence that's saying, for purposes of this policy, videos from external cameras on library buildings are not treated as library records and therefore are subject to FOIL or discovery without a subpoena or something to that effect. I don't have control of this document, so I can't type in it, but
right,
something like that.
All right, thank you.
I think that's going in the opposite direction of where the board go, though. I think the board wants to go more restrictive rather than restrictive. But
the board doesn't need to do anything then. This policy already treats them as restricted.
Right.
And I think the committee's taken both sides into consideration, and now we're just trying to guess what the full temperature of the board is. So it might be good just to have that discussion, and then the body can vote on it, and that's the body's decision. I think
Right.
we've done our due diligence of making sure everybody's voice is heard. It's time to kind of get everybody to vote.
Right. So we'll have both sides for and against. So the language is there, and then, like you said, with the next meeting, we just vote.
Either, yeah.
We'll bring that to the full board meeting.
Right.
So I'll send you a red line, Jenna. When you send your report to the board, you can say, if we were going to do this, this would be the change that we'd make. We want to have a quick discussion with the board at the next meeting, take everybody's sense of things and get some direction. Not an action item, just a discussion item.
Yes.
All right, I can do that. Mel, I can't even imagine I'm going to ask you to send it to me again, but would you? I know you've sent it to me like 8 times. I just cannot put my fingers on it here.
I will send them. I always send out all the items that we talked about after each meeting, so I will send you all of
Yeah,
them.
and I'll redline it today or tomorrow whenever you send that to me and send it right back.
Okay, that's all of our old business. I apologize profusely. I traded the device with my agenda on it for being able to continue the meeting in peace. So,
Makes total sense.
so I'd love to, just while we're together, try to take a look at a couple of new policies. I don't know what's up next though on the agenda that you all have.
Becky, you want to throw the
Workplace, we have workplace violence and incident reporting.
Perfect. However, I think it's pretty standard language, so I don't know that there would make to it.
And that is one that you've got to review with the union as well.
Oh. Okay.
Is that in 100?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying,
can't
if you were
wait.
going to make changes to it, you'd
Oh,
need
they would have to
you'd need to review it with the union. You couldn't just make changes to it.
Got it. In reading this, I don't personally see anything that would need to be changed. We still have Marjorie as the responsibility person for this. That would
I
be
don't think a name should be in it. It should be.
Yeah, we've had this conversation every time this policy comes up.
okay.
I think by,
Should be a title.
remind me, Bob, I think by law, we had to have a specific person named.
You
That's
do.
why for this one, it does have her name on it.
That is true.
Becky, I brought up the same concern last go around. So Bob, what do we do if in the policies that we do have someone named, what do we do if those individuals leave?
You change it.
Okay. Policy committee would have to meet and change it before.
I would change it to be the thing and then get back to the policy and governments committee and say we had to change it because this person left and this is the new person.
Okay. Because we have Stephanie listed too, don't we? Yeah.
In this one,
No, in public.
In FOIL.
FOIL.
makes sense though to have a specific person there too.
Yeah.
Marjorie's probably also listed in your anti-harassment policy.
She is.
Yeah.
So is there a new human resource person?
No. I always wonder about having a name in a policy.
Yeah, because there's another one that I just saw recently that still said Dan Altizer and instead of facilities. So I was thinking the same thing, that It just. Well, it should be, could be,
We got-
Would you just put the new person's name in place?
Yeah,
as long as it's the same title, right?
Yeah.
Same position.
So it would be the facility manager person is Adam now, right? So
we gotta find that policy and put Adam's name in there.
I don't know if it's the safety one or.
I think it might be safety because it has to do with chemicals.
Right.
There's one that's about like hazardous chemicals and yeah. So I know that this just went up a little bit before the meeting, Brigitte, but I see this policy as being okay to re-up. I can give you some time to read through it though if you reasonably didn't have the time before.
yeah, I did not. We couldn't do anything with the policy anyway, because didn't Bob say that, that the workplace violence one? I guess we can.
So
But it has
we'd have to, if we were to propose changes to it, we would have to send it to the union for approval.
Right, so.
I don't know if we have to make any changes given the odd nature of this year's work environment. That's the only thing I could think of, but I don't.
Yeah.
It's written so broadly that like if we make any changes to how we report incidents, this policy covers it. It just says that we will have a procedure in place to properly report incidents.
Right.
And the safety committee has not brought to me a change the process they want to tweak a little bit, but they haven't said the policy needs to change.
Okay. That looks fine.
Just reading quietly quick, and then I'm gonna, assuming that it looks clean, make a motion.
That Scott, though, you would be the point person for inquiries regarding the policy or to request anything, but it's the one that has wouldn't it be the responsibility of the human resource manager?
For this policy?
Yeah, it says inquiries at the bottom, requires regarding this policy or request for a printed copy should be directed to the executive director.
Yeah,
Standard.
That should probably be Stephanie if she's handling all of our information requests. That would be my suggestion.
Right.
Are we talking about the workplace violence again?
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, if you make that change, you're gonna have to negotiate it.
Yeah, and I feel like the union really wanted that to be the executive director, and I don't remember why.
Oh,
But we did suggest that change in labor management like 3 years ago. I think it's to make sure that the executive director is looking at incidents and keeping track, being involved in the process. I don't
Okay.
mind.
oh, okay.
Okay, given that, I'd like to make a motion to accept the workplace violence incident reporting policy as it stands.
A second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. I know it sounds silly when there's just two of us here, but. Oh, we did a policy. Okay. So would it be possible for our next one to go to that we look at just in this for the sake of time? I'd like to spend a minute looking at the dissemination of library information policy. And then we'll leave it after that, maybe for the night.
Sounds good to me.
That one's nice and short. The Board of Trustees shall keep library patrons and community members informed of all library policies, rules, and regulations. In accordance with this policy, the Board of Trustees directs the Executive Director to establish procedures through which information. Does this have to switch to Stephanie?
I mean, again, this isn't an impediment on my, it's not a time impediment on me. And basically in this situation, if they went to Stephanie, she would come to me. And
I think that's why we ultimately left all of them that say inquiries regarding this policy get directed to the executive director. I think almost every single one of the policies says that for that reason.
I think if it's outward facing, in other words, if it's community facing, it should come to me. And it's inward facing, it should go to HR. Because I should be working with the public, but staff may not always be comfortable going straight to the director. So since this is community facing, again, it's probably as simple as, hey, Stephanie, somebody's looking for this. Do you have it? It's going to end up going to her, and she's going to end up coming to me anyway for what my opinion on it.
Okay. And then the Board of Trustees has a responsibility for ensuring compliance with this policy. Inquiries regarding this policy or requests for a printed copy. I don't see any issues with this policy. I think that we do disseminate this information very well on our website right now, and Board Docs has provided a good resource for kind of keeping a library of this information. Given that, I'd like to make a motion to accept this policy as is.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Any?
Aye.
Aye. Look at that. We got through 2 policies. I picked 2 low-hanging fruit. So, just to recap, as it stands, we will wait to talk with Brenda about tabling the hate speech policy and possibly making changes to the behavior policy. And then we will bring the red line version of the issue with outside cameras to the full board meeting in July.
Yes.
And I think that might mean that we can call this meeting when everyone's ready.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, guys, good to see everybody.
I just
Thank
sent an
you.
email, so
Good night,
everybody should have it any minute now.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See you tomorrow, Rebecca, if you're going to be there, or you guys at the facility
I'll be there.
meeting.
Thanks for your time.
See ya. Bye.